Hey everybody, Matt here from Matt's Movies, Music and More, and my special guest Andrew, welcoming you to this week's episode of What Did You Think? That was a very tired point.
It's Sunday. I've had a long week.
So, if you saw our last episode of What Did You Think, you'll know that Twister Spinner had picked to talk about from the family category. So we had the 1999 classic, The Iron Giant.
I remember that.
Did you enjoy it?
I remember enjoying it.
Okay, very blunt answers there. And to replace the Iron Giant, we have put in there an obscure movie from 1970, which is called The Phantom Tollbooth, which is a live action and animation movie mixed together. So it's got Butch Patrick, who played Eddie Munster in the TV series The Munsters, and I believe the animation is also directed by Chuck Jones, so the classic animator from Looney Tunes and the later Tom and Jerry's and stuff like that.
That gives me some hope at least, because otherwise you say family 70s mix of live action and animation. I thought, I hope to be pleasantly surprised, but I have a overwhelming sense of dread.
We shall see how it goes when it comes up.
Yeah.
And so if you saw the last episode of What Did You Think, the Twister Spinner had picked for this episode from the sci-fi category. To replace the movie that we're talking about today in sci-fi, we would put in there a movie, again it's anniversaries on this channel always, a movie that is 35 years this year.
This guy loves anniversaries.
Yes, I
clearly.
do. And that is The Last Starfighter.
Okay.
You ever seen that one?
I'm pretty sure I would have watched about half an hour on a dreary Sunday afternoon on TV and then walked past it, so at least this gives me an opportunity to view it properly, because it's a cute concept.
Yes.
Cute 80s concept.
Yes. So we hope you guys will enjoy that when that comes
Yeah.
up. So on to today's video. So today
Yeah.
we have got a real treat for you guys out there. Another movie with an anniversary, this time 20th anniversary.
Proceed.
So we are doing The Matrix.
I've really, you will have seen there's a video on here where I tackle Men in Black International, and I got Men in Black International shades from the cinema. So I just realised I really should have brought my shades today, so
Yeah.
sorry about that.
Yes. So I'll do my little intro there.
Picture them in your head.
Yes.
Please.
Yes, we can add them in post. So yeah.
I thought you said you didn't have that kind of level.
So I'll do my little intro quickly, which
Sure.
is the Matrix is directed by the Wachowskis. I'm being
Yeah,
politically correct now by saying the Wachowskis.
You have to be very careful nowadays, yes.
Yes, and it stars in the movie Keanu Reeves, Carrie Ann Moss, Joe Pantoliano, Hugo Weaving, and Lawrence Fishburne as Morpheus. So,
Yeah.
The Matrix. Had you seen it in? I know you remember watching it years ago, but when was the last time you watched The Matrix? And did you see it back in the cinema back in the day?
That's a very good question, considering this is 20 years we have to go back here. In its entirety, I'm pretty sure that I've watched it the once, which is probably a bad thing to admit on camera, but and I'm pretty certain I would have rented it from Blockbuster Video at the time, and I would have rented the sequels in the same manner. My one abiding memory of that experience is that I would have watched it on a Saturday night with my mum, because family bonding time, and she does this with a lot of movies, but I'm pretty sure she would have said, especially with the sequels, I don't know what's going on here. But I think with the sequels on this occasion, I would have said that's perfectly justifiable saying that.
So I suppose we'll get into this video then. So
Might as well.
can you try your hardest to describe the plot of The Matrix?
Should I go into spoilers, considering this is a 20-year-old movie, or should I
Absolutely,
try and be vague?
absolutely. If anyone hasn't seen it in the last 20 years, then
or aware on a pop culture level what it's about, which I'd be very surprised.
yes, yes. And this movie isn't open to interpretation anyway. So
In the year is supposedly it's the year 1999. in New York or somewhere in America. We've got Keanu Reeves as computer programmer Thomas Anderson. By day he works at some computer office company because he's good with computers, but by night he is a super hacker genius who goes by the alias Neo. I think at the outset he's looking into rumours on the underground about Morpheus, this figure only known as Morpheus, and something called the Matrix. But don't know about it, but he has his he wants to know about it because he has this subconscious suspicion that the world isn't. So there's something wrong with the world, or there's something hidden in the world. Then some FBI agents or secret agents led by Agent Smith intercept him and interrogate him about what do you know about Morpheus? We want you to track down Morpheus. And so far, so 90s cyber conspiracy hacker movie. But as soon as Mr. Anderson, as Smith says, I'm not going to tell you anything. I'm going to call. Want my phone call. Well, how are you going to talk when you don't have a mouth? And suddenly, Keanu Reeves has got no mouth. So something clearly is going on here. And to try and get through this, he meets up with Morpheus and his band of supposed terrorists, including Trinity and Mouse and other characters. They only have code names. And Morpheus says you've always suspected there's something wrong with the world. That you've got a choice now. You take the red pill and find out, or take the blue pill and continue to live in ignorant bliss. And from this point we find out that it's actually 200 years into the future. Machines have taken over and are harvesting humans as batteries, and the world is not real. The world is really a storm-ravaged, mechanical, cave-ridden wasteland. And now Keanu Reeves has to deal with this revelation as much as we have to. And Morpheus has tracked down Neo in particular and released him from his bondage to join his resistance team, because there is a prophecy of one who will save us from the machines, who will lead up the human revolution, and he believes that Neo is the one. Is he though?
So
there's a little bit garbled, but hopefully you got some coherent gist out of that.
So that's pretty much the plot of the movie. So let's talk a little bit about this, which is, at the time, and maybe looking at it now, this movie was kind of described as a cyberpunk movie. Would that be fair to say?
Arguably, it was. Cyberpunk is a genre in science fiction that had traction throughout the 80s and the 90s with the likes of Blade Runner and
Robocop, maybe?
Robocop, perhaps. I'm trying to think if the Lawnmower Man really fits into that.
Because the one that comes to mind is a movie that came a couple of years prior to this, Dark City, which I've never seen.
Oh yeah, for most people, the scene where Neo wakes up, where it's not 1999 anymore, he's in this pod, he's naked, he's covered in tubes, and there's this factory around him of other pods and humans and wires and machines and lightning, and oh god, it's suddenly gothic cathedral machine night H.R. Geiger-esque nightmare. Wow, this is a sudden left turn, and wow, this has never been done before. Those people had clearly not seen Dark City a couple of years previously, which, fair enough, not many people had seen Dark City.
I haven't seen that either.
I recommend it.
Yeah, that might be one we do on this channel at some point.
Yeah.
But going back to the Matrix.
Yeah, I was going to say alternately that I don't know if other things came after it. Feel free to correct me, but the Matrix at the end of the 20th century felt like the last word in cinematic terms on cyberpunk.
Okay.
Or the last example that really meant something to mainstream audiences.
Yeah. I mean, this was one of those movies that I remember when it came out back on DVD back in 99, 2000, and it was one of those movies that I think everyone owned, and if you didn't have a DVD player at the time, this was the one that all the television DVD retailers that would sell you TVs or whatever and test the surround sounds, this would be the demo disc that they would put in on the machines to show off the visuals, the sound and everything like that. But did you know, I don't know if you had a problem when, did you rent it on DVD or was it VHS? Because VHS was still around about this time.
I can't remember, honestly.
Okay. Did you know that the original Matrix DVD that had came out had a feature called Follow the White Rabbit, which was some sort of interactive thing, and apparently quite a few DVD players that were out at the time actually could not function using that feature. So that feature was actually a bit too advanced for the time. So it kind of works well with the movie, a bit ahead of its time.
I have heard about this, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think my DVD player had a problem with it at all, but I know some people did. But
you were the kid at school who was up to date on all the DVD releases and technology, so that doesn't surprise me.
yeah, and I think that The Matrix was one of those DVDs that I think prior to probably any of the Marvel movies coming out, I think it was probably the biggest selling DVD probably, that because people wanted it just to show off their home entertainment and the surround sound and everything, 'cause it had like DTS audio and everything like that. And then obviously subsequently later on you'd have all the box sets for The Matrix, which is constantly being churned out by the studio always. But with the movie The Matrix, I mean, should we go into the cast and crew and stuff like that? Is that alright? Or
it's fine.
okay, so let's go on to the crew, the two directors, which is the Wachowskis. Now, we say that now, they were known as the brothers back in the day, but now it's the Wachowskis.
Yeah.
Very little is known about them because they are very private people, keep themselves. Obviously, if you go on the internet, you'll find out what they've become now, so we don't want to touch that at the moment. But prior to doing The Matrix, they had their first big hit with a movie that came out in 1996 called Bound. You ever seen Bound?
Not seen it, but I'm aware of it.
It's like a film noir thriller, erotic thriller, because it's got Jennifer Tilly and Gina Gershon, and also Joe Pantoliano, who also appears in this. That's a really good movie. I hope one day we can cover that. And obviously, the Wachowskis essentially are known for doing the Matrix trilogy, because in 2003 they made back-to-back sequels, which was The Matrix Reloaded and The Matrix Revolutions. So it's a bit like when Robert Zemeckis did Back to the Future's Part 2 and 3. They were made back-to-back and then released within a short time frame.
I was going to say, basically it's like the Back to the Future sequels, only not as good.
But yes, you had that, and then obviously afterwards the Wachowskis got into making other projects and stuff for Warner Brothers, such as Speed Racer, which I have not seen. I've heard it's not great. Have you seen it?
No.
No? Okay. And a movie which I actually really like, even though they did not direct it, I believe they produced it, V for Vendetta.
Yeah, saw that.
Yeah, do you like that one?
I remember having thinking, yes, this has got the Wachowskis' fingerprints all over it, and thinking how pretentious it was that V was vicariously vendetting against vindictive, venerable. This dialogue was wow. This is the. When he's introduced and does that speech, I was, oh God, this is the kind of movie we're going to get.
A lot of these there, aren't there? Yeah. But, okay, so with the actors involved in this movie, they got Keanu Reeves to do this, and from what I read, he was not the first choice for this movie. I think he was cast very last minute, if I recall. I may be wrong.
I have heard that there were other actors considered for the part, So
Yes.
I couldn't think who they are exactly.
But I mean, what do you think of Keanu as Neo?
Well, it's funny to look at this year with the Keanu as it's called, John Wick,
Yeah.
Toy Story 4, Cyberpunk 2077. He might be in a Marvel movie in a couple of years.
Yeah.
Isn't that exciting? And replicas, but we don't like to talk about replicas. Am I right in saying that he was known for Bill and Ted
And Point Break.
And Point Break.
And Speed. We forgot about Speed.
Johnny Mnemonic,
Yeah.
I'm going to say, which I'm sure everyone was thinking, oh God, not another Johnny Mnemonic when this came out. But this was it was his arguably his biggest role since Bill and Ted, and it has kind of come to define his career. I mean, it's easy to look back on it and think of all the woes and I know kung fu and all the poses, but certainly during the first act of this movie, when he's being confronted with this reality and all this crazy crap happening to him, that he seems to have a dream about a bug tracer being planted in his stomach, and then it's oh my God, that was real. He is convincing as this everyman, or he functions as the protagonist who's discovering this world and asking all the questions and having very human reactions of initially upon Morpheus telling him the truth. It's like, that you people are crazy, I want to go back, you can't go back.
And then what about Carrie Ann Moss as Trinity? Now, I don't know if it's just me, but the Carrie Ann Moss character of Trinity kind of seems to me, with her hairstyle, that you would imply that she's a strong woman and can protect herself, whatever. But she falls in love with Neo, and you kind of think, that came from nowhere.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. It comes out of nowhere at the very end when all hope is lost. Slow motion explosions, and then she says, you can't be dead because I'm in love with you, and the Oracle said I would fall in love with the one. Given her stern, stoic attitude, and even I'm sure she said once or twice, I don't. This is the guy we're trying to rescue. I don't believe in him. To go from that to I'm in love with you, it's almost
seems a bit forced.
How did you get from A to F?
Yeah.
Not A to B, A to F.
Yeah.
They develop it in the sequels, but I think we have to look at the context of this first movie here, and it feels like either they didn't write it down or whole pages of script were ripped out.
Yeah. Do you think it was forced by the studios maybe to put that in? Because I kind of get the feeling that Trinity could have been a gay character.
What makes you say that?
The way that she looks, with her hairstyle, and the fact that she's a woman that can look after herself. She doesn't need any man in her life.
Oh, I was just going to say that she's a strong female character, but in a cinematic world that didn't necessarily have so many of those. Look where we are now, 2019. But I digress. That and there was the Wachowskis have clearly built this world, this setting. They've clearly fought it out and fought out the characters. I don't know if they had plans right from the start to make a trilogy out of it, but I think they were clearly going for something.
Yeah. And
with all the arcs of the hero's journey and the love interest and the wise mentor, that's how I see it.
Which brings us to Morpheus by Lawrence Fishburne.
Oh yes.
Now, it's funny now that looking at this movie 20 years on that Lawrence Fishburne is now also in the John Wick franchise as well, which I think is kind of a nice touch. But what do you think of his performance in this movie? Because clearly this made him a star. I mean, he was a kind of B movie kind of actor in like Nightmare on Elm Street 3 and Just Cause with Sean Connery and stuff like that. But when he did this,
what's love got to do with it?
I think a few years prior to this, didn't he do Event Horizon?
It was a couple of years before. Now that you mention it, that was a couple of years ago. He was on the Event Horizon, looking at those people dying in agony and saying, "We're leaving."
Yeah. So what do you think of his performance in this movie, anyways?
I could be cynical and harp on about how he, after the left turn into the second act turn into this futuristic apocalyptic world, he mostly serves to be, he sit in a chair with his shades and go, the world is not what you think it is, and after that be Mr. Explainy, teach you kung fu. There's a difference between knowing the path and walking it, and I believe in him, and we can't fail because I believe in him, and you must know this, Neo, and blah 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 blah, and then he's a kidnapped victim in the third act. But he's cool.
Yeah.
He is the epitome of cool.
Yeah.
You can. So much iconography that the leather suits and the shades became so prolific and so parodied and so copied in the years immediately following this.
And that's why I want to talk about that,
we'll
definitely
move on to. But I think a large part of it, Keanu Reeves, obviously, but I'm watching it back again for the purposes of this. A large part of it is Lawrence Fishburne's acting.
Yeah, but we won't go into the rest of the cast in the movie, but regarding its legacy, this is what I want to talk about now, is watching this movie, The Matrix, right? Back in 1999, this had some extremely groundbreaking CGI, which hadn't been seen in movies probably since Terminator 2 back in 91.
It feels like the most significant special effects heavy science fiction movie since Terminator 2 8 years previously.
Yes. And looking at it, it's one of those movies that was parodied to death with like Scary Movie and loads of other different type of parody movies. I think any action movie that you could think of was especially marketing itself on The Matrix. Like, take this Warner Brothers one, for example, that I'm thinking of, that I think must have been clearly inspired by The Matrix. Ballistic, X vs. Sever, which was a movie with Antonio Banderas and Lucy Liu.
Oh God, I haven't seen it, but I've heard of its reputation.
Yeah, and then obviously you've got hacker movies that became more prominent at the time, like Swordfish. So Warner Brothers were clearly trying to make the next type of Matrix movies, which was, the internet world of hackers out there and stuff like that. And even still now, I think
so many slow motion action sequences, so many slow motion bullets, so much slow motion in movies, thanks to this bloody film.
Yeah. Now, looking at the movie through 20-year-old eyes.
Also, I want to bring up the final level of Conker's Bad Fur Day on the Nintendo 64, which is basically right before the final boss fight. It is basically the bank heist in The Matrix. It's Conker and his girlfriend Berry dressing up like Neo and Trinity and going in there, and you could press a button to do the flip across the pillars, and everybody wanted to go. Everybody 1999 to 2001, 2002 wanted to go, look, this is like The Matrix.
Yeah. It was a cultural phenomenon, I think, and it's something that, as I wanted to say, which is that I heard, did I hear this right at all? Which is that not since Star Wars, there was people that were going around and claiming The Matrix as their religion. A bit like when people were saying Jedi as Star Wars.
I dimly remember that.
And I think, wasn't there even university degrees and courses on The Matrix?
I've not heard about that.
No? That could be just BS, but I'm not exactly sure. But
I can believe that.
Yeah, but looking at this movie through 20-year-old eyes, I'll be honest with you, Andrew, I've only seen the movie once, and I saw it back in '99 on DVD. And to do the research for this movie, I watched it again, and essentially what happened was I thought I'd never seen the sequels before in my life, so I actually watched the sequels as well within a few days.
Okay.
So I tried to understand the plot of The Matrix, and I'm so glad you described the plot because I don't have a fucking clue what it's about. But all I can say is that watching the first one, I kind of think the movie ends perfectly, whereas the sequels kind of feel like, what the hell is this world I'm getting into, and where are all these characters coming from?
Well, I think that's a very good encapsulation of how striking the first movie was, and what the sequels did afterwards, because the Matrix ends with Neo flying like a superhero, right? And so the sequels had to acknowledge that and build on that. But the problem is there's something inherently silly about a man in a trench coat and shades flying across the sky like Superman, and unfortunately that's the sequels are full of that. I haven't watched the sequels like you have for the purposes of this, but the more I hear about it, the more I feel like the sequels are a victim of hype and expectation.
And also dating, I'd say, as well, because I kind of think that the movies themselves, the sequels, have dated quite badly.
The first one was brilliant, so they had to rush these sequels out very quickly and try and build upon the world, and
but they also did tie-ins, didn't they? Because they had the Enter the Matrix game, which had plots, stuff to do with both the second and third one.
It was tied into the second movie.
And then you had the Animatrix as well, which was a collection of animated shorts put together.
I watched that whilst I was violently ill, and that is my one abiding memory of the Animatrix.
I see. But no, this movie definitely inspired a lot of films that came after, and do you think it deserves its legacy? That 20 years on, and now the fact that Matrix 4 is going to be made hopefully soon, do you think that it deserves this legacy of what it has as a groundbreaking piece of cinema?
Well, at the time, I felt that, again, like I've said on a previous video for Men in Black International, the 90s, in a certain respect, were a very dark time for movies. Men in Black was the one movie that felt clever and visually striking and intelligent at the same time. But then right at the end of the 20th century, moving into the 21st century, we suddenly started getting weird original ideas in movies. Crazy out-the-box plots, and I think it's safe to say the Matrix was the first example of that. So it's like, we really have not had anything like this before. Like I say, you go into it thinking that it's just going to be a cyber conspiracy on the run from the FBI agents plot or something, and then suddenly, bang! It's a robot apocalypse. It's not real. And with the Wachowskis bringing that plot along with these characters and this sort of grand operatic anime sensibility to this world. This was clearly a film with a vision, and very deep and philosophical as well, with even though in dialogue this really just boils down to you've got a choice. You've got a choice between the pills. You've got a choice between staying here or coming with us. You've got a choice between being at your desk every day from this day forth or going to find another job.
Yeah.
It's about choice, predeterminism, prophecy, fate, themes, subtext. And I still get that watching this years later, along with thinking, oh yeah, this is where all the bullet time coining a whole term, bullet time. That's how significant this movie is in terms of special effects and certain style of action sequences. I mean, we've seen lots of imitators since then, but this is still interesting to see where this comes from, and also watching this movie again and knowing what the Wachowskis have done since. Cloud Atlas and Jupiter Ascending, which is the very, very similar premise of a normal person who discovers that they're special and they go on this crazy journey across the universe. How did they get it so right with the Matrix and then get it so wrong years later with Jupiter Ascending? What happened?
Wow, I didn't know that. I do want to make one point briefly, and then I think we'll wrap this video up, which is that it might just be me that saw this similarity with the movie, but did you see, given that Thomas Anderson is a hacker and that he gets brought into this world, the Matrix, would you say you could see similarities with the 1982 sci-fi movie Tron regarding a hacker who gets taken into another world, i.e. the computer world, where anything can happen, you know, and he's fighting for his life? Isn't that a bit similar to the Matrix, would you say?
In concept, but obviously the Matrix is more visceral and graphic.
Yes. Well, that's all I wanted to bring up, really. But regarding the Matrix, I mean, 20 years on, I don't know if I'd ever watch it again, to be honest. I'm glad I've seen the sequels finally, because, to be honest, I never really got what the movie was about. But first one's all right. The sequels are pretty meh. It's you know, I kind of think it was a bit unnecessary. But when you've got a movie that made nearly $500 million in the worldwide box offices, then clearly Warner were going to cash in on it.
You had to act upon that,
Yeah. So, anything else you want to say about it?
Only that the Matrix is a vast computer that houses minds and is so advanced to the point that it houses an entire virtual reality that is dangerous and lethal, and if you're going to go in there, you'd better be prepared and make sure that your body is being guarded so that the villains don't try to sabotage you. This vast repository of knowledge and data, this vast computer, the Matrix. Have you ever seen the 1978 Doctor Who story, The Deadly Assassin? I wonder if the Wachowskis did.
Okay, so I guess that's the Matrix. Ah!
Whoa.
Is that your best piano, is it?
No, but I had to do something quickly.
Okay, so it's Twister Spinner time then. So without further ado, let's see what's going to replace this one. Ah, it's come up with horror. So let's see what the Twister Spinner says we've got for horror. We've got on there the 1993 horror movie Brain Scan.
Oh.
Which is a movie that stars Edward Furlong and Frank Langella.
Oh.
Have you heard of it?
No.
Okay, so this is kind of a blind watch for you then.
Oh joy.
Well, check out that episode when it comes up. So thank you very much everybody for checking out today's video. What do you guys think of the Matrix? What's your interpretation of the Matrix? Feel free to comment and tell us, and we'd love to hear from you. So yeah, don't forget to check out all the other series we have on our channel, including Andrew's show, At the Movies with Andrew, which he'll talk about all the latest movies. I've got a load of solo videos coming up here and there, and we have some other shows potentially coming up in the future. So thanks everybody, all the very best, and anything else you want to add? Closing statement.
I know Kung Fu. I don't really, but you wanted me to say something.
Thank you everybody, bye bye.